Morning all.
More
morning, Councillor Roberts. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the New Bolsover Joint Partnership Committee, which is taking place with both councillors and officers and community members attending remotely. It's a public meeting and it's being streamed live via YouTube via the council's website. And also, just so everybody is aware, the meeting is being recorded for the purpose of the minutes. I've been advised the live stream is now on and up and running. So if for any reason the public can no longer hear us, we'll have to suspend the meeting until the connection is remade, and then we'll resume the meeting. Can I just advise members and officers that since the beginning of lockdown, that's only ever happened once. So I don't expect that to be a problem. Just to remind members and officers of the etiquette, so your camera should be on at all time, but your microphone should be muted at all time unless you indicate that you wish to speak. And when I invite you to speak, then please remember to introduce who you are and your role before speaking. Thank you. If you raise your hands, I should see, and if I don't see, then both Liz and Tom Scott, the clerks who are present, will make sure that they bring to my attention anybody who's indicated they wish to speak. Okay, so I'll now, if I may, because I can see everybody who's in attendance this morning, go through and advise you as to who is in attendance. And when I say your name, can you just confirm that you can hear and see everything? So I'll literally work across the screen. So I'll start with Liz Robinson, Governance Facilitator.
I can see and hear everything, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Bailey.
Yes, I can see and hear everything, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Derek Adams.
Yes, I can see and hear everything.
Councillor Rose Bowler.
Yes, thank you, Tom. I can see and hear everything.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Clark.
Yes, I can hear and see everything.
Thank you. Councillor Sandra Peake.
Yeah, all fine, Tom, thank you.
Councillor Liz Smith.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can see and hear everything.
Head of Housing, Ian Barber, Property Service Manager.
Hi, Chair. Yeah, I can hear and see. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Kane.
Yes, Chair, thanks. See and hear everything.
Matthew Phillips, Clerk of Works.
Yes, to both, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Kim Wyatt, New Project Manager.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon, Friends of Bolsover.
Yes, thank you. I can hear you, Chair.
Matt Connolly, Special Projects Officer.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see everything.
Mark Dunworth, Property Services, Repairs.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see. Thank you.
Tom Scott, Clerk.
I can see and hear everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Roberts.
Yeah, I can see and hear.
Thank you. And Katie Walters.
Yes, I can see and hear.
Thank you. I'm not sure of your role, Katie. My apologies.
That's all right. I've just started in the property services team as property services manager, taking over from Ian Barber.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so thank you very much for that. We'll move, if we may, onto the agenda. So first of all, have we had any apologies for absence, please?
I've received no apologies for absence, Chair.
Thank you very
much. If I may, Chair.
Yes.
I'm here at the moment, but I'll be turning and leaving the meeting at 10:30 due to a funeral of one of Sharbock employees that lost his life to COVID.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, we'll move on then. So I don't have any urgent items of business to report to you. Everything else is covered in the agenda. So number 3 is declarations of interest. So members who have interest should declare them in advance to the governance manager. However, if anybody does have an interest they wish to declare at this stage, just raise your hand and let me know. No, that's fine then. We'll move on then, if we may, to minutes of the last meeting, and these have been circulated. It was some time ago. So they're on pages 5 to, sorry, 5 to 8. So is it your wish that they be recorded as a true record? Somebody care to move them? Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Peake. All those in favour, please indicate by raising your hand clearly. That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We're moving on then with the agenda. Right.
Chair,
So,
sorry to interrupt, and I'm sorry I'm late, but a slight technical issue this morning.
good morning, Councillor David Dixon.
Thank you.
If you'd just like to make sure you're muted, and thank you. Thank you, David. Right, so moving on to item 5, which is the notes from the 10th of September meeting, and they're on pages 9 to 11 of your paperwork, and that relates back to an informal meeting we held on the 10th of September. I discussed with the governance manager and whether it was necessary to actually note these formally, and the advice is that we do note them formally, but because they're just notes, they don't hold the same sway as minutes. So I'll move from the chair that they be noted. Does that receive a seconder?
Second that, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I just wondered, as their notes, is there anything out of those notes, Ian, if I may ask you, that we won't be picking up within the agenda?
I don't think so, Chair. I haven't got a copy of those in front of me, unfortunately, so I don't know whether there are any actions within there.
Well, I think basically it was a set of updates given by various officers, and I think I would suggest they're likely to include those in their reports this morning.
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. Thank you.
And the same will apply, if I may, members. The next item on the agenda item 6, is the notes of the meeting that were held on the 10th of November, which again was just an informal meeting. So again, I'll move from the chair that they be noted. Someone will care to second them. That will be helpful. Thank you, Derek. And I take it we're all in favour of those two. Thank you very much. Okay, so that basically covers those two agenda items. So now, if we may, we'll move on to item 7, which is the New Bolsover Heritage Lottery Fund project. And I now invite Kim Wyatt, who's the Conservation Officer, as well as the Property Services, the New Bolsover Project Manager, to give a report, present an update. Over to you, Kim.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think I'll just deal with the other element, the non-building elements of the HLF project. They're still left unfinished, and I think Matt and Ian will probably give an update on the building work. So one of the big outstanding issues is the resurfacing of the paths on the green. We now have the engineer is meeting on site with the contractor. We're going to appoint a contractor via our framework, so that we've got a quotation for that work. The contractor and Steve Chapman are meeting in the next week or so to actually discuss details of the resurfacing works, which is just the main paths across the green, not the perimeter path that runs the whole way around in front of the houses, but just all the paths in the green. And the other works involved in that are a lamp post in the centre of the green and an electricity pop-up bollard. Steve is aware that there's the drainage issues, so they will be looking at particularly those areas of the path further down past the play area where we're subject to flooding, and there's a proposal to put some French drains along the side of the paths. So we say that we're going to give at least 4 weeks notice, so the residents will get at least 4 weeks notice of the work being carried out, and I can liaise through the Friends of New Bolsover once I get some dates for that work to commence. Anyone's got any questions?
Sorry about that, lost my mouse pointer. Does anybody have any questions, please, for Kim about what she's just reported? No? Okay, no, I think you've got away very lightly there, Kim. No, I'm only teasing. All right, can we move on then, if we may please, to project work? And I'm now going to invite Matt Phillips, the project officer, to present his report. Matt.
I invite Ian to share it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so I've just put together a sort of brief description as to where we are, what issues we've gone, just a general update really. So since we've sort of completed the project, since we've had PC, doors seems to be an issue that keeps coming back from residents. Under that, we've got, as you can see, I've put down there's 4 scenarios that are affecting doors. Defective new doors, which are opening up and having splits and cracks in them beyond the manufacturer's tolerances. These that we're surveying and we're putting back to Woodheads, that's not an issue. We've got a few instances where the new doors are fine, but there's been a poor quality paint finish. So again, these are deemed defective. We're going back to RWL. And the refurbishment of doors. So where we kept an existing door in place, these have been refurbished. And again, that's been a poor quality, either repair or paint finish. Again, that can go back to RWL. The issues that we've got is where we've kept a door, we've not replaced that door. And since that survey by HLP, cracks are opening up, issues are forming with that door. We have now come back to RWL on that because that's not defective work on their behalf. That's circumstance, age. So we're having to deal that within housing repairs now, and Paul Machin's surveying those as they come in from each tenant. But as you can see, it's approximately £1,400 per door. So the view was taken that we couldn't just simply replace every door to every property. There had to be a level of compromise. There had to be a level of surveying. There had to be a level of, so yeah, so that is an issue that we are receiving now from tenants. We are looking at the possibility of placing bolts at the top and bottom to bring the door in to prevent movement, see if that will help reduce the gaps. And that's something that we're trialling now within housing repairs on that. So, but any resident that can report the door issues through the normal process. Internal defects, all properties now have passed their 12-month defect period. We wrote to every property and door knocked at least twice, at least 2 letters explaining that. 82 properties responded, and Woodheads have completed 74 of those, which I think, given the COVID situation, that's a pretty good response. And obviously the remaining ones are being done as we speak, and appointments are being made as residents are comfortable with having people working in the properties. External defects, all blocks have been surveyed now by BDC and been issued to RWL, so they're undertaking those works now. They now have a specific labour force that is purely doing the defect works. So that's been undertaken. They should be coming around nicely. They are following the horseshoe round rather than doing it sporadically in blocks. And the high-level gutter works that we're doing, the roof specification changes, we had a frustrating winter period really with the frost and the bad weather. It was very frustrating for residents across New Bolsover. They could see scaffold going up. They could see some works and elements being done, and then a big long pause. That was really frustrating for us, but due to the weather, we couldn't really undertake those repairs. But recently we've had good weather, increased temperatures, and that's allowed us to get across completed blocks more quickly and scaffolds removed. As you can see from the phasing plan from RWL, you can see where we've come round now with completed blocks So those that know New Bolsover, it's really from the site cabins now down the hill. We are on that last leg. Works are increased. They've increased labour. We have the process of inspection, schedules of works undertaken, sign off, and scaffold down. That is getting better. It's a process, but we need weather, we need temperatures to complete those works. But touch wood, we keep temperature up. We should be on for April, early May completion. And that's way too much from me.
Thank you very much indeed, Matt. So I've got some people indicating they wish to ask questions. So I don't know who put the hand up first. So I'll start, if I may, looking across the screen with Councillor Alan Bailey, and I'll take you next, Eric.
Yeah. On a site visit, approximately maybe 18 months ago to the site, I was looking at the doors at the time, and I commented on the quality of the paintwork and the quality of the doors. I find it a bit distressing that we're now 18 months down the line and these doors are still causing a problem. £1,800 has been, £1,400, sorry, has been mentioned per door. The buildings, no two buildings, I understand, will be the same because of subsidence, but for £1,400 for a door, and we're talking about putting maybe bolts on them to close them up to make them weatherproof and whatnot. I don't find that very good sort of thing. But like I say, we've just gone through a very cold winter. These doors must be causing a problem. And like I say, 18 months since a site visit, and I talked about it, and they're still talking about problems with doors. I think it's a bit concerning, and it's something we need to sort out very fast, sort of thing.
And do you want to respond on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Stop you, Ian. Somebody's got a mobile phone that's ringing. You can hear it. Right, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of an 18-month window, it's not necessarily the doors that you noticed at the time that haven't been dealt with. The repairs to doors have been ongoing throughout the project. And what we're doing is we're increasingly looking at doors to make sure we're addressing any issues that are raised with us. What we have identified is that some of the doors that were fitted under the project, which weren't at a £1,400 cost, I need to point out, aren't up to the specification or the quality that we demand, and we have made those we have made them replace those doors. We've made them undertake refurbishment works to those doors where required. Unfortunately, wooden doors were a part of the planning application and were insisted on because of the nature of the grade 2 estate. Wherever you have wooden doors, we're always going to have issues where we've got drafts to them, because wooden doors move throughout seasons, as you pointed out. So the bolt solution that Matt's discussed are to where we have doors that in summer we don't have the draft issues because they're not noticed as much. As winter, when doors swell, they won't shut properly or may catch on a frame. So if we undertake works during the winter, in the summer we'll have problems that the doors are too loose in the frame. So what we're trying to do is find a solution where people can make the decisions for themselves in terms of putting a bolt on, which will hold it closer to the draft strips we fitted, and should hopefully deal with that situation. So we've got a number of strategies to try and deal with different issues. So where a door is faulty, we will place that back, we'll get it repaired, and where it's not been decorated properly, we will address that through quality and ask that it's done back to the standard that the quality is laid out in the specification document. And where it's a drafty door, we'll try and work with that as in a repair service to deal with that particular tenant's issues and or resident, to make sure we try and resolve its satisfaction. So it's not that we've not done anything for 18 months. The team's worked extremely hard actually on trying to identify issues and deal with them. The wooden doors are and will remain an issue because of the nature of a wooden door in comparison to a UPVC that will fit in any other project that will have no gaps and will look right from the start. So I can assure you that we will continue to monitor doors, and we are. One of the things Matt's doing is doing a full walk round to every single door. So do you want to come in on that? Sorry, Matt.
And Matt wants to come back in.
It was just a comment that we need to remember as well that we've super insulated these properties. We've put super brand new windows in. There's not the natural airflow and there's not the air movement that there was previously. So we've now got this super insulated property, and we've got this natural timber chunk of wood there, expecting us to shield us from 20 degrees to -2. We are going to have some element of compromise with this natural product.
Thank you very much, Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Derek Adams, Bolsover South. The bolt issue was one thing I was going to bring up, but also on the presentation Matt just did, it went from number 3 to number 4, from Robert Woodhead's responsibility to Bolsover's responsibility, and that were on the refurbishment. There were a bit of a grey area there. Could you bring it back up on screen, please?
Yeah. 2 secs. We're talking about the plan.
The door issue.
What the hang on, let me put Matt's report back up. Was it the general update?
Yes. Right, there we go. Poor quality refurbishment. This is covered by RWL. Old doors with splits and cracks or signs of rot. These weren't deemed as requiring replacement. Surely they'd have been refurbished under RWL then?
No, so what
Splits
Matt's
and
saying.
cracks in rot.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. What Matt's saying is that the surveys were originally undertaken 5 years ago to determine the project work. So at that time, any door that was considered either needing replacement or requiring refurbishment was collated and put into the project works and work undertaken. What we're finding now is 5 years down the line, wood's a natural product. Over years, some of those doors have deteriorated, but they didn't form part of the project works. So they just sit inside the normal Bolsover repair survey that everybody else's doors do. So it's not that Woodheads have done something and we're not making them deal with it. This is where there were no work undertaken by Robert Woodhead. So it's being dealt with under our normal defect process.
Thank you very much, Ian. That explains that. Thank you.
If I may, while we're talking about the doors, if some of these doors 5 years down the line are doors that belong to privately owned properties, are we asking the owner for a contribution towards the £1,400?
My understanding, Councillor Monroe, is if somebody's door 5 years down the line is now requiring replacement, they're an owner occupier, that would be up to them to replace.
Yeah.
It would be done. There are no project funds anymore. Well, certainly within the council funds, the HLF grant was the portion that paid for works to private properties, because we cannot use HRA money.
No.
That's so I think there is a bit for the external works left in, but there's certainly not a pot of money where private residents can say, oh, can I replace this or do that? It wasn't identified at the time of the surveys or throughout the project. It won't be done under it right now, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much indeed. Any other members or anybody else wishing to ask questions? Yes, Rose, Councillor Rose Bowler.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. One resident has been in contact with me over 2 or 3 months regarding his door. He's also sent me information regarding other residents. What I want to know is, are the residents reporting the issues that they're experiencing, or because it's what the residents told me is there's all these other residents, but I've got no numbers where the properties are. I just wanted to know if they were reporting it through the proper channels.
Well, there are a number of channels they can take. So one is through yourselves as members who had your surgeries, and obviously your numbers are freely available. There is through Robert Woodhead in terms of a complaint. So if they feel that the work's not been done correctly, you go through the RLO, and then there's through our repairs number, which anybody can ring. So I'm not aware that there's a significant number of people. There are some people who've raised issues with doors. Matt can probably give a better update than me, but what I'd ask for is if you give us the names and addresses, we'll contact them and find out what their issue is, and if we can deal with it, we'll deal with it.
Yeah, that's the problem. If they're not giving their addresses, that's the problem we've got. And I was just wondering, and I know Sharon's here, if they could put up on their webpage how important it is for the residents to report, ring the council or contact Derek and I, so we can get it sorted. Else it's going to go on forever, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I want to, and I think we do operate in an excellent repair service, but we're not so good that we know about repairs that people don't tell us about.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
Crystal wall. Did you want to come in, Matt, and add anything further?
Yeah, we sent, obviously did the 12-month defect inspection, so all the residents that took us up on that were given the opportunity to raise that as a defect. Then that was listed on the defect form. RWL then in the first instance are there to put that right. If they deem they can't put that right and it's defective, then that comes back to us to deal with it as housing repairs, whether we feel we need to do any repairs or we have to replace that door. But anything that's reported to us, 9 times out of 10, it's gone on the 12-month defect list and it's been put back into RWL's court to
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you. Councillor Peter Roberts.
Councillor Peter Roberts, Whitwell Ward. Yeah, you've mentioned grade 2. How does that differ from just being in a conservation area? And the reason I'm asking is because there's quite a number of people in Whitwell in a conservation area, and they're using resident 9 windows, I believe it's called, and they're allowed composite doors. So why would they not be allowed on this? Because composite doors are much better in the first place. They don't what these doors keep doing. Why can't they? And especially if the residents, private residents, have got to pay £1,400, a composite door is much cheaper and much better. So can we clarify conservation area as to grade 2, and then why can't we use the better doors?
Is that one for you, Ian?
That's one for my esteemed colleague Kim Wyatt.
Oh, good. I'm sure she's going to be able to answer that. Kim, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the grade 2 listing, they are actually listed buildings. The whole of the model village is listed, and under the statutory listing, it's a much stricter legislation compared to conservation area buildings. So so in terms of the grade 2, that means they are actually listed buildings, and the requirement is that listed buildings, you use traditional materials, you use traditional detailing, and unfortunately the model village, we had to adhere to that, and the uniformity in the model village is quite significant as well. So the idea that the windows and the doors are the same was quite an important element of its history and its significance. So we are obliged through Historic England and all other sort of guidance and legislation to say that on listed buildings you do use traditional materials. So unfortunately, we're conservation areas, buildings in conservation areas, there is more scope to look at other sort of materials and options, which is what we're doing currently in Whitwell. But that's the legislation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Okay, are there any members or anybody else want to ask any questions, please, to Matt's report? If not, thank you once again for your report, Matt. We'll move on now, if we may, to item 9, which is planning enforcement and unauthorised works to properties. And I believe, Kim, it's you again going to report on this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we are conscious that there are already people making changes and doing unauthorised works, and we are getting reports through the Friends of New Bolsover and various other people. They're all being registered on our enforcement as unauthorised works, and the enforcement team are aware of them. We're really conscious we need to step on it, you know, quite early on and make sure that we're dealing with any breaches of planning control. What we're going to do initially is I'm going to write to all the residents and remind them of the you know, the fact of what they can and can't do, and send a little shortened leaflet of the planning guidelines. So we're going to send that out to everyone in the next week or so, and then the enforcement team are then going, so that everyone is aware, which they should be anyway, and then we're going to be following up the unauthorised works. But what I'd say is, people, you know, if you residents and as we're walking around, if we do see any unauthorised works, if you report them through to the Development Control Planning Department, they will be registered, and we will be keeping on top of them and dealing with them as they come in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to that report? Councillor Bailey?
Could you please specify the unauthorised works, if possible, what are being carried out? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we've had reports of satellite dishes going on fronts of buildings, not on the authorised place of on the chimney. We've had fences going up, perhaps on top of boundary walls at a height that they shouldn't be. We've had extra sheds, sheds being roofed in different materials. We've had reports of lights fittings being put on. Another one was painted brickwork. So given that we've spent a lot of time actually removing all the paint from the brickwork, we've had incidences where people have actually gone and painted the brickwork again, which is not, you know, which is not permitted. So they're the minor things, but we're sort of conscious that you know, if one person does it, then you know there's a knock-on effect, isn't there?
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Right, so finally, item 10 on the agenda is to invite Sharon to give a brief update from Friends of New Bolsover. Welcome, Sharon. You're muted, Sharon.
Oh, there we go. Yes, hello. We had obviously COVID has affected us a lot, as everybody. We had a quick meeting last week. We are in the process of rebranding Friends of New Bolsover. We're now going to come under New Bolsover Community.
Brilliant.
We are drawing up a business-like plan for the next 12 months of what we'd like to do in the community to help facilitate people getting out and about more and more involved in community projects. That involves the baby and toddler group. We're thinking of doing some kind of youth club, and as well as hopefully when COVID's finished, having some kind of party just to bring the community together, get people talking, find out what more people want, but things are moving forward. Nicola and Sarah have sort of dropped me in it today because I thought they were going to be here, and there was something else, something about leftover food from supermarkets. I can't remember the name of the scheme, but we're on about doing that. You get so much, it's some kind of food share, and we're thinking it's not a food bank, so there's not a sort of stigma. We go and collect leftover food from supermarkets. We then sell 10 items in a bag for £1. Anybody can come and get them. And again, it's just another way of helping the community without them feeling like they're taking handouts or anything like that.
Okay. Good luck with that venture. Just out of interest, have you talked at all to Community Unity Project, CUP, who are very active across the whole of North Derbyshire? They're certainly active in Clown, in Whitwell, in Cresswell, and I believe they may be active elsewhere. But they're very experienced now in giving appropriate community support. But if you look on Facebook and type in Community Unity Project, that will connect you up with them, and they really are a useful source of advice because they've now got so much experience.
That's very helpful, thank you. Yes, we will do that.
They're called Community Unity Project, and you may just need to use their abbreviation, which obviously is CUP, C-U-P.
Right.
They are a really helpful organisation. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Just another quick one. Obviously, Martin and Sue, who were such a big part of Friends of New Bolsover, have now left, and we obviously thank them for all that they've done to us. The community group as it is, or charity as it is now, is Nicola Goodlad is chair. I'm deputy chair. Got Sarah Levy, who is our new secretary, and Victoria Ling, who is our new treasurer. And we're currently going through the books, sorting everything out. So that is the makeup of the community group at the minute.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have a forwarding address for Martin and his partner?
We're working on it.
I asked because I just wonder if it wouldn't be appropriate for this committee that has worked alongside Martin and his partner for a long time, throughout the life of this project, to acknowledge and just to send them a letter of thanks on behalf of this group for everything that they contributed and for all the hard work and dedication they put in.
That would be lovely and much appreciated, I'm sure.
I hope the members of the group agree with that course of action. Are people happy with that? Because I mean, it wasn't easy for them at times, and they were persistent. And sometimes you need one or two dogged, persistent people in amongst you to shake you up a bit. But they were always polite, if not sometimes a bit terse. But then, at the end of the day, that was the role they were in. But I would like to think that we do acknowledge as a group and thank them for all their contributions and their hard work and dedication. So if you, Liz, could organise that, or well, I think it'll be you, Liz, won't it? That would be much appreciated. Okay, Liz.
Yeah, that's fine, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for your report. Yes, Kim, I think, wants to come in.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think it'd be worth just providing an update on where we're at with the lease on the community house for the Friends of New Bolsover, because we were working towards the end of March this year for a handover, but Mark Dunworth and we'll be working with legal to sort of try and get a lease, but because of the current situation, we appreciate that things have been really difficult for them, so that's been put on hold at the moment. But I don't know whether Mark wants to come in and sort of suggest where we're going with it. We've sort of parked it, haven't we? But it's still on the table as an option, obviously. But
Mark?
Yeah, I spoke to Claire, obviously, about carrying on in the short term for the next financial year with obviously some funding, to cover the overheads. So I've got something in the diary for myself, Kim, Jim and Claire to meet up on a Zoom and just recap where we're at, because obviously we were waiting for feedback from Friends of New Bolsover to see, obviously gathered the team together again, let's say. So I think we should be all right in the short term, but obviously we just need to get back on track with everything in COVID, don't we? So we'll feedback obviously at the next meeting, but I've got a meeting, I've got something in my diary to set a meeting up anyway for the team in Bolsover District Council. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for that update. I'm sure Sharon will be able to relate that back to the rest of the group.
I will.
Thank you. Anybody else got anything, any other comments on Sharon's report? Yes, Kim.
Thanks, Chair. I just think it might be an opportunity for Matt Connolly just to give us an update on the play, give the residents an update on the play area situation as well, because that hasn't quite been finalised, and I don't know where we're at with that. Matt, would you be able to, would that be okay if Matt could update on that?
Yes, I can. Excuse me. Yes, can do. As you'll be aware, the play area was opened in October, and again, we've had another wet winter, so the drainage issues that we'd hoped to resolve as part of the installation of the playground haven't quite worked as we anticipated. So what the installers have agreed is that they will revisit this in the spring when things have dried out a bit. And because we had some issues with the installers, we've got a new team of contractors who will come and do the works as soon as it's dry enough to do it, really. And as things stand at the moment, we've not yet paid for the installation work, so effectively any costs will be borne by the company who installed the playground to sort the issues out.
Okay, Kim. Okay. Right. Anybody else got anything else on the Friends of New Boleslow report? No? Right. Well, according to my agenda, that concludes the business of the meeting. So before I go any further, can I thank anybody who has watched the live stream for their interest in the meeting? Can I thank all the officers for all of their contributions and Friends of New Bolsover? And can I now ask you, Martin, to turn off the live streaming?